Hey all, welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I'm Darren. Today we have an awesome guest, world-renowned, world-famous, world champion barbecue pitmaster, Mr. Harry Sue. I'll be right back with Harry in just a minute.
Smoking, grilling, getting hot and hotter, sous vide and chilling from fire and water.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I have a really great guest on today, and I hope you guys enjoy him. Mr. Harry Sue, world-famous barbecue pitmaster. Harry, welcome to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast.
Hey, Darren, happy to be here. Glad to be on your podcast. And I'm, eager to answer your questions and sort of tell the world about how they can all go out and spread barbecue love.
Well, one of the first things I want to do is just kind of give me a brief synopsis on how you got involved in doing these barbecue competitions. If you don't know who Harry Sue is, seriously, you have to look it up, look him up. He's one of the first guys that was on Barbecue Pitmasters on TV. So, how did you get involved into this, Harry?
I am a typical accidental pitmaster. By day, my day job is I work in IT and I build things called data centers. And I got into barbecue totally by accident because about 10 years ago, there was a movie called The Bucket List with Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson. We have staff meetings every Monday, and one of my project managers said, I saw a great movie called The Bucket List, and we're a bunch of IT nerds, so we should all make a bucket list so that we can do something with our lives before we kick the bucket. And we proceeded to kind of write down the normal things that we would want to do, like go to Bora Bora, and so on. But we decided to make it interesting, and we started to kind of ham around, and we said, why don't we write stretch goals for each other? So let's say, Darren, I know you, and let's say I know you always wanted to, say, water ski, but you never ventured out to, take a class. Then we'll write a bucket list item for Darren to go out and take a water skiing class. I enjoy cooking barbecue because I used to cook barbecue for my coworkers at work. We would do fundraisers. My assistant is African American. Her name is Janice. Whenever we had fundraisers at work, I'd serve the barbecue to her, and then she would hand it out to all my soul brothers and sisters in the building. We have about 1,000 folks working in our building in downtown Los Angeles. And everybody thought that Janice made the barbecue, and nobody knew it was me. And they said, hey, Harry, for fun, why don't you go out and cook a barbecue contest just for fun as a stretch goal in those contests where teams bring in the meat in little white styrofoam boxes. And I said, sure, why not? And nothing happened on the bucket list for many months because I was procrastinating. And finally, they said that, hey, when are you going to do your bucket list? So I got tired of my coworkers nagging me. So I said, I'll do one contest in Palm Springs in California and get you guys off my back. And I showed them the application form that I filled in. So my team name was called The Bucket List. And they said, that's a boring name. Let's come up with the team name for you. And I said, hey, I don't care what you call it. Just call it anything you want. And they said that apparently in the South, when you eat something you really, really like, you want to slap somebody. So I said, what do you mean? He says, well, you're a daddy. Why don't you call it Slap Your Daddy? So I said, that's a stupid name. Who wants to be Slap Your Daddy? But just to humor my coworkers, I just put it down on a piece of paper. So long story short, I won the contest. And the rest, as they say, is history. And that was 10 years ago. So since then, I've been on a few TV shows, traveled around the world cooking, and taught literally 200 over classes in barbecue around America and around the world. So it's been a great journey. And I feel blessed that now I can share my knowledge and my techniques on YouTube. So I started a YouTube channel, and things seem to have taken off.
Well, yeah, we're going to kind of backtrack and go into some detail on some of that stuff, but that's a great introduction about who you are. And we were just talking a little bit before we started recording, and that barbecue is still just a part-time kind of hobby for you and love. You still work full time, but you don't work by where you live. You kind of live by Los Angeles and you fly up to Sacramento area, right?
Yes, I'm on assignment. So by day, what I do is I run a large team. So I oversee a portfolio of $50 million of the projects, about a dozen project managers. So I'm the guy that gets a roll up newspaper when something goes wrong, and I build all the infrastructure needed essentially to bring water to 20 million people, 300 cities. So it's a kind of a stressful job. And I took up barbecue sort of a stress relief because when I go out and compete in a barbecue contest, I'm usually a one man team. So I'm my own cook, my own dishwasher, my own driver. So nobody tells me what to do. So when I go out and cook barbecue, I can kind of decompress from work because at work, everybody's screaming at me. And by the time I get back to work on Monday, I fully recovered. So I always joke that it's cheaper than therapy.
That's funny because usually, from what I heard, I've never participated in a barbecue competition, but I would think it would be just as stressful to be in a competition for barbecue because it's so much, so many things you're trying to do and so many other people you're competing against. But and that's another thing too. You're in California, which is not known as a barbecue mecca. So
Yes, and I think that that's kind of how I ended up on a TV show by accident 10 years ago because I don't come from a part of the country that's sort of well known for traditional American barbecue. We have our tri-tip, Santa Maria style. We've got kind of our kind of California style barbecue, but nothing along the traditions of things like, Texas brisket, Memphis ribs, Carolina pork. And I was very surprised that they cast me on a TV show with three world champions and a total of seven teams in Pitmasters season one. I reckon they needed some kind of humor, that they wanted kind of like the fish out of water guy from California to come on the show because whenever I compete, especially on a national stage, when I compete in Kansas City, people see my booth and they see the sign "Slap Your Daddy," and then they see me there. Right, the first thing they ask me is, "Hey, where's the pitmaster?" So I always joke and say he went to the bathroom because I do not look like your typical kind of grand champion pitmaster. And then like 20 minutes later, they come back and they ask me again, where's the pitmaster? I said, I think he's still stuck in the bathroom. You want to go check him out? And then by the time they would have Googled me and they know I'm pranking them. So I don't typically fit the image, but at the end of the day, I always say it's a white styrofoam box. So no need to fear me. Just fear the white styrofoam box because it's a double blind judging and the judges have no idea whose food they're eating.
well, that's kind of amazing to me. And one of the things that I watched a lot of the barbecue pitmaster show, and one of the things that got me is how it's not double blind. That they just turn the box in you're to the people. They just walk right up and hand it to them. So it's barbecue pitmasters is not really the competition that you go through in a competition,
Yes,
right?
you have to prove yourself on the comp circuit. So I won about like 100 plus first places and 20 about 30 grand championships. So the way it works is when you go to a contest, you're given a number. So you're given four boxes and your number. So let's say Darren, your team is given box number 10. So you turn in your box, white styrofoam box number 10. The first thing that the official does is change your number. So your box number 10 could become box 427. So box 427 is taken behind the judging tent where you cannot see the judges and the judges cannot see you, and is randomly assigned to six strangers sitting at a table. So at every contest, right, each of my entries is eaten by six strangers, and the six strangers are rotated so that no judge eats your meat more than once. So your food is eaten by 24 strangers. The strangers will score box 427, and at the end of the day, only the officials and the computer knows that 427 equals 10 equals Darren.
Nice. Yeah, and you can't get that when you watch Barbecue Pitmasters because from the way you watch that show, to me, if I was thinking, well, this is how usually a normal competition would go. The pitmasters just bring their box up and set it in front of the judges. So, yeah,
Yeah, the one that we did was the only one that was different. Season two and on was shot in a sound set in Burbank, California, Agoura Hills, California. So I was on the first one that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to shoot because they had essentially 20 people flying around the country with us for 4 months. So that kind of a production costs just too much money. So I think in the subsequent pitmasters, they moved away from that format where the camera crew follows you around the country. So we had basically a crew of four people and there were 4 of them with 4 support people following 7 teams. So you can imagine the logistical headache, right, of transporting all the equipment, including all the camera booms, all the
Oh
lighting, all
yeah.
the sound, traveling with us as we go into these parking lots or what do you call open fields, and all the crew will have to go and kind of set up and shoot. So it was a very logistically challenging shoot because they had to shoot so much footage, essentially like 90 hours of footage to cut it down to 40 minutes.
Wow. That's amazing to me. Now, how long were you doing competitions before they asked you to be on that show?
It was a stroke of luck because I only started 10 years ago in 2008, and I ended up on a show in 2010. I didn't realize how I got on the show till 5 years later because you know who Carolyn Wells is, right? She is the president of KCBS.
Right. Uh-huh.
So what happened was the story goes that Carolyn Wells knew John Marcus. John Marcus is the producer who put together Pitmaster 1. He had been shopping that idea for many years, but he couldn't find funding. But he finally, kind of able to rustle up a deal to put together a show, like a reality TV show featuring pitmasters traveling across the country. I did not know that Carolyn Wells knew, John Marcus, who produced also the Cosby Show and a whole bunch of TV shows. So I guess I meet a lot of people when I go to contests because people come up to an Asian guy, he cooks barbecue and he's winning on the circuit. So I speak to a lot of people, and I did not know that at one of the contests in California called Stagecoach, I spoke to Carolyn Wells. I didn't know who she was, but I apparently treated her well. So much so that she told her friend John Marcus, "You gotta go cast this guy from California on your TV show," because he had spent 2 years scouring the first 6 teams, like Myron and Tuffy, Jamie Gear, and so on, Leanne Whippen. I was a last minute ad. So essentially what happened was on a Saturday afternoon, I was competing in a contest in Northern California. And at 12:25 in the middle of the contest, my cell phone rang. And if you are a competitor like me, you know at 12:30, ribs are due. So I immediately thought one of my competitors was trying to prank me and trying to get me disqualified from the rib entry because I would be distracted by a phone call. So I picked up the phone, and then the guy said, "Hi, you don't know me, but my name is John, and I want to cast you on a TV show." So I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," and I hung up, not thinking who it was. Then it wasn't until Sunday when we were driving home from NorCal that I told my partner, Mark, "Hey, Mark, I had a weird dream. It appeared in the middle of the rib entry, kind of like my cell phone rang." So I looked through my cell phone, and lo and behold, there was a call from New York. So I picked up the phone, I talked to John Marcus, and we hit it up right away. And he told me about this crazy idea of casting me on a show. And I said, "Well, I haven't done any screen tests. I haven't done anything." He said, "Nope, I'm going to just put you on my show." And then on Tuesday morning, a pile of paper 1 inch high from Discovery Channel showed up in my doorstep. So I really didn't know what to do because I had never been on TV before. And I said, "What the hell am I going to be doing on TV?" And I had no idea what was going to happen, but he just said, "Trust me," and sign the papers. And I signed the papers. 2 weeks later, we shoot episode 1 in Mesquite, Nevada, where we got hit by the humongous microburst thunderstorm.
All right, so let's backpedal just a little bit more and go back to where did you develop your culinary skills altogether before you even got into barbecuing for your work?
I only learned to cook barbecue when I arrived in America about 40 years ago. So I used to fly 747s for an Asian airline. If you're as old as I am, you will remember a time when you had to buy gas on alternate and even days. And there was an oil crisis. So the young generation have no idea what I'm talking about. And your readers and your listeners may not know, but there was an oil crisis in the world in the late 70s, early 80s. I was a refugee.
I remember it.
So I lost my job and I had to retrain for a new career. I decided that being an airline pilot wasn't a good vocation because of the downturn in the oil industry. So I decided, why don't I go study computer engineering? And I ended up in Texas Tech. And within the first week of school, my classmate took me out and I had that one magical bite of Texas brisket and Texas beef rib. And I fell in love with American barbecue. And I spent like the next 20 years of my life trying to figure out how to cook American barbecue because I had no pedigree. It wasn't like my grandpa taught my pa taught me how to cook barbecue. I had no background in American barbecue, but I did have a very curious engineering mind. And since I was a computer scientist, I decided I would crack the American barbecue secret code by brute force. So what brute force means is that I'll cook a piece of chicken with salt and pepper, and I'll write the results down. And I'll do salt, pepper, chili powder, result. Salt, pepper, chili powder, sugar, result. Salt, pepper, chili powder, sugar, garlic powder. So I built all these flavor profiles in the grandfather spreadsheet tool of Microsoft Excel. Something probably I'm not even sure you've ever heard called VisiCalc. So VisiCalc is the father of Lotus 123, and Lotus is the father of Microsoft Excel. So I built all these flavor profiles to understand how seasonings fuse to meat, how smoke, fire, draft, moisture, temperature all affect meat. So that's how kind of like perfected my techniques. And I never knew that the techniques were any good because I just cooked for my family and friends until that moment in 2008 when the movie with Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman aired. So that was kind of like set me off on an accidental pitmaster journey. So I have no business really cooking barbecue. I'm just an accidental pitmaster.
Before you did the Pitmaster Barbecue Pitmaster show, did you just compete locally? Did you go outside of the state? You didn't travel to do like Memphis in May or anything like that before you got involved in the Barbecue Pitmaster show,
Yeah,
right?
I actually I did the I won reserve champion in Kansas City. I think that's what caught Carolyn Wells's eye. So I won what I was
Okay.
like a 120 team contest. I kind of drove out to Kansas City on a lark because people in California, all of my friends around the country were dissing me, and they say, "Harry, you're pretty good in California. You won Team of the Year 2 years in a row, Rookie of the Year. You went over to Arizona, kick everybody's butt, won Team of the Year 2 years in a row. If you're really that good, why don't you go cook in Kansas City?" I say, "Oh, sure." Anytime anybody says you cannot do it, you know that there is an irresistible challenge to me. Just like that guy who said, "Harry, you're wasting my time. You got to be able to cook a brisket in 2 hours, cook a whole packer." I say, "Is that so?" If you watch my YouTube channel, I do the impossible brisket. I cook a freaking 14-pound packer in 2 hours. So I'm one of those funny people. I'm fiercely hyper competitive. If you tell me I cannot land a 747 where my wheels are behind me 7 stories down and not wake up a first class passenger, I will be able to do that. That's what drives me.
That's funny. That's kind of how I'm not quite as as hyper as that, but I do like to experiment and try new things, and that's what I love about watching your YouTube channel is that people think of you as just doing barbecue, but you do other things besides barbecue, and you like to experiment a lot, and that's what I like. Just to watch the one that you released this morning with the transglutamate and the meat glue sticking all those steaks together, and it's kind of like one of those things like somebody told you couldn't do it and you had to kind of prove
Yeah,
them wrong,
what
right?
stupid bizarre person would try to make a Frankenstein steak and glue 5 favorite steaks together? Only Harry Sue would do something like that. So I have a lot of ideas that I've already shot that are in edits now. So in the coming weeks and months, you see me do some crazy shit stuff because people think that I'm just a barbecue competitor. I am actually barbecue competition is only like 20% of what I do. The other 80% hasn't come out yet. That's why people always tell me, "Harry, your channel offerings are very diverse." I say, "You ain't seen nothing yet." I've only posted 160 videos. There's probably another 500 videos in my head waiting to jump out. Now, obviously, some of this is not meant for everybody. Just like when I put out the ASMR videos, I got a lot of heat from everybody. Why did I do ASMR? I said, well, my viewers want to see it. So I'm one to spread barbecue love. I embrace the rainbow of diversity that makes a barbecue. Because I don't care whether you cook it fat up, fat down, MSG, no MSG, injection, no injection, right? I welcome you all because we should all use barbecue as a method to spread barbecue love in this world.
Well, now that you said that, though, what do you think of what I mostly do, mixing sous vide and barbecue together?
More power to you, brother.
I just, it doesn't happen much anymore, but when I first started doing it, you would get the hardcore barbecue guys that would kind of look at me and kind of, give me that look, oh, that's not real barbecue. But, one of the things when I first discovered sous vide, that I was doing barbecue for 5 or 6 years, just really diving into it. I've done it all my life, but I just a lot more. And one of the things I saw that what it could do is it kind of help enhance certain things, so it's not going to replace cooking a brisket over, wood, but it's just different, kind of like what you do with different experiments, different things, different cooking methods, changing them around, mixing them together. So
Yeah, there is no such thing as sacred ground. I was a former board member for the National Barbecue Association, and I got a chance to kind of interact with Mama Shed and Mike Mills and everyone. And we all have the same philosophy as quote unquote the leaders of barbecue in America is that we really want to make sure barbecue is inclusive, not exclusive. So we really don't care what shade of gray it is, whether you cook your ribs by boiling them and then grilling them, or even cook a hot dog. So long as you are grilling and having fun and spreading love, that is the definition of barbecue.
I agree with it 100%. The food is what makes a difference. Now, how did when you did the barbecue pitmaster show, did that really launch your celebrity status? Do you think you would be doing the barbecue classes and personal appearances and stuff like that if you didn't have that, if you were just relying on the barbecue competitions?
I think the answer is kind of holistic. Obviously, it's not just one thing; it's a sum of all things. Obviously, the show kind of got me a little bit of a notoriety on the national circuit. Winning 100 plus first places didn't hurt, also, but also having the message. I think the most important thing is the messaging. What you cook and how you cook it, in my opinion, is irrelevant because there's plenty of folks out there who know what to cook and how to cook. I focus on why you cook. So I cook to spread a message of reconciliation, respect, understanding, and kindness. That's what I'm trying to do. So for me, barbecue is not really about cooking. It's about reaching out to our humanity and teaching the world that I can teach you a skill so that you can master barbecue, so that you can spread love in this world. That is essentially the underlying reason why I do what I do. That's why, I think that I've been able to kind of resonate with a lot of people in America. I was just shocked that I just posted my YouTube channel, about a year plus ago, and right now there are 60,000 people who listen to what I say, and that is not something I really had planned for because I even got into the whole YouTube by accident. I had a student named Ricky Tran, and he knows how to sharpen knives. He has a YouTube channel called Perfection. And I told Ricky, hey, Ricky, I'm tired of having dull knives. And he said, Harry, why don't I teach you how to sharpen knives since you taught me how to cook barbecue? I went to his home, and he had a nice knife sharpening setup, and he also has some video cameras. So he said, "Hey, do you mind if I just turn on my video cameras while we sharpen knives?" And I said, "Sure." So I thought to myself, who wants to watch two guys sharpening knives for 2 hours? I was surprised that when he aired the video, I think right now he's at 50,000 views. So that got me kind of started on the idea that I could share my knowledge and techniques on the internet using my cell phone. And Ricky told me, hey, why don't you just record a few clips of you cooking on your cell phone and see what happens? So I did that, and next thing you know, it kind of gained momentum. And now today I've 60 over 1,000 subscribers, and I've been kind of posting consistently only for the past year.
Yeah, and I think that's an instance too where your name is known throughout the barbecue world, and you got shared really quickly through a lot of the bigger barbecue channels, like Troy from T. Roy Cooks and Greg Mervich over at Ballistic Barbecue. You're a known guy, so it really and believe you got a really good camera personality. I watched as soon as I saw your channel, I subscribed and I watch it all the time, because it's different. Your attitudes, like you said, you're really wanting to teach people, and that's kind of me. That's what got me started, is wanting to help and teach people how to do what I do, and not make them feel intimidated or anything like that. So your videos are very instructive and not intimidating at all, and that's why I think you're getting very good traction with it.
And people tell me, Harry, why are you giving all the secrets? It's, hey, I always tell people, in life, right, there is a simple formula. When you are 20 years old to 40 years old, you learn like a sponge from many masters. When you're 40 years old to 60 years old, you hone your craft to be the best that you can be in the world in your particular profession or skill set or trade. When you hit 60 like me, you got to give it away, man. Life is short. You're going to die soon. So in the last 20 years of your life, you give everything away, pass it on to the next generation so that they don't fall and slip on the same banana peels that you slipped on, because there's no need to. So I always tell people, some people tell me, Harry, you're a godsend. I came to your class. I've been cooking brisket for 20 years, never could get it right. I just spent 6 hours with you, and I turned in championship brisket after the class. I say, yeah, that's exactly what it's about, is I want to pass my knowledge on to you so that you can go around, turn it around, and become ambassadors of barbecue love. It's like a boomerang. When you toss a boomerang into the universe, If the boomerang starts off small, it's going to gather momentum and come back and hit you on the side of the head way bigger than you possibly could imagine.
Well, and not everybody's going to go out there and compete against you in a barbecue competition either. They're going to take it home and cook for their family, like you said, and just like how you started, just cooking for your family just so they can do it. They're not stealing your ideas to go compete against you in a barbecue competition.
And
That's
they do, I congratulate them. I, I I trained the first woman grand champion of California, and I trained the first woman grand champion of Arizona. And I'm so proud that she took my class on Saturday. The following Saturday, I competed against her in Scottsdale. I was reserve champion, and she was grand champion. It just really, brightens my heart whenever I go to any contest where I compete. And when the award ceremony on Saturday comes around at 5 o'clock, half the people going on stage, right? They go on stage and they signal me because these are all my alumni. I feel like a proud dad to 3,000 pitmasters around the world. I was even amazed that even the Costa Rican national team told me, hey, they're coming to the Jack Daniels this year because they pulled so many tips of my videos that they won their national championship. So now they have a seat in the Jack Daniels. Another team from, I think, Melbourne, Australia, or Newcastle told me they followed my recipes on YouTube to a T. And now they're coming to America for the World Food Championship. So, the story goes on and on internationally and nationally. People send me all these pictures. I just don't have time to post all this on my Facebook, but I get constantly every week, I get pictures of people who have won awards. And to me, that is the reward that I get. I don't need anything more besides hearing their stories of their success.
So how many barbecue classes do you do a year now? Do you still do a lot of them, or?
I probably am one of the most consistently prolific instructors in America because I teach about 1 to 2 classes a month at least. So on the average, I do between 25 to 35 classes a year, which I'm not sure even anybody who's a full-time barbecue instructor is able to do that. I've done it consistently for 10 years. I mean, the classes themselves were a kind of an accident too, and an accidental teacher because my coworkers at work, I have a building of 1,000 people. They would start pestering me, Harry, we like your barbecue. Can you teach us how to cook? So I kept saying no, 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 no. And on one Saturday morning, my doorbell rang, and a few of my coworkers showed up. They say, Harry, you cannot escape. We are here. You must teach us how to cook barbecue. So I kind of threw together an impromptu class for a few of my coworkers in my backyard. And then what do? They go back and they tell 1,000 people in the building. And then they start cooking the food. Then everybody starts badgering me to classes. So then I started teaching classes. Hey, yeah, I'll do 2 classes a year just to humor my coworkers. Then my coworkers started telling their friends. And next thing you know, total strangers are sending me emails, right? Asking me to do classes. So I thought, hey, I'll do like maybe 1 class every 3 months. So it got to the point where I had to teach 3 classes a month because I couldn't keep up, because I felt bad because the waiting list was up to 9 months long. And I didn't want to disappoint people. So now I kind of reached a steady state where I try to do, like two classes a month. And then I'm putting my knowledge out on YouTube because I say, hey, you don't have to come to my class. If you're willing to watch my 160 videos, you essentially get the same information, except in my class, I do it in a condensed way. We do 27 items in 6 hours. So it's my version of barbecue insanity, because if somebody told you that you would come to my backyard, sit and cook with me side by side, and we will cook 27 items in 7 hours, you think I'm crazy. But we do that every Saturday.
Wow. Well, I know personally, I got a friend of mine, John Setzler, he has his own YouTube channel. He's had it for a while now, Man Cave Meals. I don't know if you've looked at that, but he did a lot of videos for Kamado Joe ceramic grills. But he told me he went out and did one of your classes a few years back, and he said it was one of the best things he ever did. So I know he'll be listening to this podcast as well. So,
all right, I'll do a shout out to him. And I have many friends who have different kinds of pits, and they will always know that I told them or I taught them that it's always about the pit master and never the pit. So if you are a skilled pit master, you should be able to cook with some chicken wire and cement blocks from Home Depot. That is the rule I taught my students.
Now, do you do a lot of personal appearances, and like do companies hire you to come cook at events and stuff? I think you went to the HPB and all that too.
Yeah,
right?
I am constantly, there's many more invitations that I can do than I have time for. I decided that in order for me to reach the widest possible audience to kind of teach the world how to master barbecue, the YouTube seems to be working. I still do a lot of events on the side. So I do approximately maybe 25 to 30 classes, and then the remaining 20 weekends of the year I spend doing other things. I'm big on trying to give back, so I'm trying to start up a kind of a grassroots social program. I call it the Lifestyles Grilling Class. So we are going out and targeting at-risk youth. I started a program in Northern California with a social worker in Hayward, where we run Saturday classes. We spend 6 hours teaching at-risk youth how to cook barbecue so they can have a new skill set. When you're 16 years old, Darren, you should not be thinking about what gun to buy. You should really be thinking about what kind of clothing you want to buy to go attend a job interview. So America, unfortunately, has 50,000 of these kinds of at-risk kids, and if you don't intervene in their life, they will end up into the juvenile system and then the adult penitentiary system, and then you have a 40 times more likelihood that they will become career criminals. And this is just, in my opinion, a total waste of human potential, because a lot of these kids are really good kids. They just have not had the opportunity to go beyond their kind of their living and work environments. So I decided that I would try to put that program onto YouTube and then put it in a kit. So anybody around the country now can download the kit. It's a kind of an instruction manual that has a dozen chapters that teaches you how to set up such a social assistance program in your inner city, how to partner with social workers so that you can spread barbecue love in your own communities. And I'm happy to report that people around the country have been downloading the kit, and I'm kind of coaching people now on how to teach them how to teach. So there's going to be a series of videos coming that I'm preparing right now that I teach you how to teach. So you can download the kit, go out to your inner city, pair with a social worker, devote 6 hours of your Saturday, round up your pitmaster buddies. So instead of kind of like going out and cooking barbecue, I'm asking people to join in this crusade to try to reach out to those 50,000 at-risk youths spread all across America.
Well, and that's an amazing and very honorable thing for you to do, to spread that knowledge and put that into a social program like that. I really love those kind of organizations, and that sounds similar to what Chef Johnny does. I know Chef Johnny works for a high school, but he does a lot of that too, teaching some of those kids how to cook. So I know you know Chef Johnny Stewart, because you probably met him when you
Yep.
went to Troy Smith's T-Roy. So.
Yeah, so what I want to try to do is marshal up all the energy of America in terms of all the pitmasters out there, and then we can kind of unite to realize that the barbecue and the skills and the techniques, right, should be shared with the world. And I would submit that sharing it with at-risk youth is not a bad place to start. I think Anthony Bourdain said it best when he said that barbecue may not be the path to world peace, but it sure is a good start. And I think those words are very profound.
Yeah. Well, this is a good place for us to take a break. We're just going to take a little break for an ad. I got Inkbird's, sponsors this podcast, so I'm going to give them a minute or so. But we're going to be right back with Harry, and we're going to talk about some other things. So we'll be right back. Hey all, it's Darren. I want to welcome a new sponsor to the podcast, Inkbird Products. Inkbird's been around since 2010. They make some good humidity controllers, temp controllers, thermometers. They just released a new line of barbecue thermometers. I actually have the IBT 4XS model, which is a Bluetooth 4-probe barbecue thermometer. It has up to 150-foot range on the Bluetooth. Has built-in times and temps for different meats. Works really great. Check them out, Inkbird Products. You can find them on my Amazon store on the link on my website. Also, you can check them out on Facebook, Inkbird Barbecue. You can join their group. They have discount codes, giveaways all the time. But welcome Inkbird Barbecue Products to the Fire and Water Podcast. Check them out, guys. Thanks. All right, Harry, we're back. Now I just kind of want to go into some different things, some basic questions of, I know when you first got into barbecue, and I think even some of the competitions, and even when you were on the Barbecue Pitmasters, you use simple grills and smokers. You use, I think, the Weber Smoky Mountain was like what you used, to win a lot of your competitions. Is that right?
Yes, I actually can say that I probably have the world record, having won 100 first places on a Weber Smoky Mountain 18.
And have you ever been tempted to try to get the fancier stuff, the pellet grills, and because some of the stuff you see on the newer the newer competitions. I mean, some of these things are $15,000 machines that they
My
got
friend
out there.
Jamie Gear, who is the owner and inventor of the Jambo pits, always joked with me, Harry, when your Weber Smoky Mountains grow up, they want to be a Jambo offset smoker. So I always tell Jamie that when I go to contests, I've shown up in contests with a tamale pot on top of a Smoky Joe and taken 5 walks to the KCBS contest because I always show people that, it's never about the pit. It's about the pit master. If you look at the top 50 teams in America and you look at the kind of equipment that they use, you'll see a great diversity of equipment. You see stick burners, you see pellet cookers, you see drums, you see offsets, you see everything. And really, I think that is Exhibit A, that at the end of the day, it's not the golf clubs that matter, it's the person who swings the golf club that matters.
Yeah, that's what I was going to kind of say, because it's the same thing with golf or anything, any kind of competition. People think that the equipment is the most important thing. Not to saying that you got to have something that actually works, but I mean it's really about, like you said, it's the pit master. It's how you put the food together, how you season it, how you treat the meat. It's not about the most expensive or the most technologically advanced cooker, just like with golf clubs or any other thing like that. So yeah, I agree 100%. Now I do like pellet grills for certain things. I like my Kamado grills for certain things. They do have their little idiosyncrasies and things that they do better than one another. But like you said, I really don't think at the end of the day it will turn out any different food. It just makes cooking a little bit easier. So
And then it matches your style. I mean, there is a certain Zen meditation ritual involved in putting a log into your offset smoker every 40 minutes. And people like that. They like to stay up through the night hours, watch the smoke wafting through the night, and then watching that dawn and, go to dusk with the smoker and the meat. There is a unity and a connection with the food. So I appreciate that because that's what people enjoy. There's some folks who want to put the meat in and go to their cell phone, press a button, go out to the mall and watch their food cook on their cell phone. That's okay too. Different strokes for different folks.
yeah, there is a place for technology. There's a place for different types of cookers. It's like you said, anybody you can be have a guy that just loves to cook on pellet cookers and he's going to turn in and win every time. But then again, you got another guy that cooks on a Weber Smoky Mountain, and it's just the love that you put into it. It doesn't matter what you're cooking on.
We have a saying in competition barbecue, it's just a white styrofoam box. So whatever way you use to create the product that goes in, nobody knows because the judges don't know.
Right. So let's talk about what's your favorite thing to cook on the pit, whether it's for competition or for family. What's your favorite part of when you're in a competition that that's your favorite part of the competition? Is it brisket, chicken, pork ribs? What is it?
Actually, none of the above. I love the mystery meat entry.
So what's the mystery meat entry? Tell us what that is.
Okay, so in most KCBS contests, at least in California, is that they have the mystery entry. So the mystery entry can happen on Friday. It can happen on Saturday. Sometimes it's called the anything but category. Because I've cooked the 300-400 contest. So after a while, the ribs, pork, chicken, and brisket become a little bit routine. So what I look forward to is actually these kind of Iron Chef type of events. Like when I cooked in London and I won the London championships, they had the Iron Chef event. And I was more happy that I won the British Iron Chef grilling championship than I did the British barbecue championships. Because it's kind of not fair, right? That an American pitmaster go to England and beat the British in American barbecue. So I was a little bit sort of kind of like muted in terms of my enthusiasm that, hey, the headline says the American guy goes to London and beats everybody in England in American barbecue. That exactly is not a great headline. But I was very tickled when I won the grilling Iron Chef contest by making a Moroccan-style ginger orange glazed pork chop because the mystery meat that day was pork chop. So I love shows like Food Network, like Chop Grill Masters, where you open up that basket and then sheer terror takes over because you have no idea what to do with brisket ice cream.
Right. Those are some of my favorite shows too, and my family too. We'll sit there and we'll just watch. They'll have episodes of Chopped on. 6 of them in a row, and we'll sit there and watch every one of them, even though we saw it 10 times. That would be my biggest fear. Is all of a sudden you got 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is to decide what you're going to cook out of this mystery meat basket that they've given you. So, but that's
And
awesome.
there's one thing that
Your
I
favorite.
enjoy doing. And you see me on different collabs that I've done. I'm famous for being invited to somebody's house, and the next thing you know, I go to their pantry and I whip up a dish. So you've seen me do that at Troy's house. You see me do that at Justin Baby Back Maniac's house, where I just go there with no preparation and I just go and plunder ingredients from all the other YouTubers, and then make some kind of a dish for everybody to enjoy. So that's really where I'm in my element. So to answer your question directly, I really like kind of like Iron Chef, kind of create something on the fly type of moments.
Yeah, that's great because those are my favorite ones to watch. When I'm watching those, like Troy's video or Justin's, and you guys are there all together, I know you're going to do something nobody else is going to do. So it's crazy. I like it's just I like that stuff. So let's talk about your Slap Your Daddy rubs and sauces and all that. When did you start those, and when how are they doing, and how long did it take you to get your formulas and stuff down for that?
My sauce recipes is sort of an engineering in process type of journey. And I had been tweaking ingredients and sauces for many, many years. And I didn't know they were any good until I started winning on the competition circuit and ended up on a TV show. Once I was on a TV show, somebody called me up and said, Harry, I'm a fan of your TV show. And, do you sell your rubs? I said, no, I have a full-time job. I have no time to make products. So he says, well, I so happen to own a rub company. Would you like to partner with me? So I thought to myself, well, my revenue from sauce and rub is zero. So anything higher than zero is not a bad thing. And I entered into a
Right.
agreement with David Severs, a guy from Cleveland. He owns soupbase.com. So folks around the country who buy the beef bases to inject their brisket, they all pretty much buy it from David, because David sells to a lot of wholesalers around the country who in turn sell it to barbecue stores. So if you buy like a Miners au jus or buy Miners beef base, it's good odds that it came from Cleveland, Ohio, from David Severs of soupbase.com. So I got into this partnership with David, and then we decided to sell the product. And we said, well, why don't we just do a test and see if anybody would buy it? When we launched it in, I think, August of 2010 or 11, we sold $1,000 the first month. So I thought, wow, that's insane that I'm a nobody. I put out the rub, and then it sells $1,000 in the first month of launching with no advertising, just purely by word of mouth. And I was very thrilled because people who know me know that a lot of the net proceeds from barbecue benefit charities. So I support Operation Homefront for the troops, the families, and the veterans. I also support Save the Children Foundation, which takes care of children around the world, because every day 22,000 children around the world die. So I also support other things like Operation Barbecue Relief and American Cancer Society, because I lost my wife to cancer. So I do barbecue kind of as a way to give back to society, because I already have a day job. So the day job takes care of my living expenses. So when I barbecue, I truly barbecue. And whatever, I have left from barbecue, I try to give it away to spread some love in the world. So the sauce kind of took off and the rub kind of took off over the years. And today, I think we sell them all over America on Amazon and everything, on everywhere. And it was really kind of an accidental journey. I never imagined myself to be a seasoning type of person, but people who use my products, they seem to win. Like Doug Scheiding, he won the Houston Livestock and Rodeo first place, beat 400 teams to first place just using just one product, just my chicken rub. And he cooks on a GMG. So I was fortunate enough to be invited by him to go join him in the following year where he defended his title. So I got to go get a front row seat at the Houston Livestock and Rodeo. And a lot of the times people tell me that they've used the product just out of the bottle to win first place. So I say, wow, that's amazing, man. Go for it.
Now, do you still tinker around with rubs, or do you kind of got your ones that work and you just don't leave them alone? To me, it sounds like you're somebody who likes to keep tinkering with things to try to make them
Yeah,
better.
I always believe perfection is not attainable, only pretty good. So I have a pantry in my home that looks like a Frankenstein lab. I have pretty much like 120 spices from around the world. Some that are so exotic, like harissa, things like that you probably have not heard before. But I love to tinker with seasonings because a painter looks at a piece of white canvas and sees the possibility. When I walk into my pantry and I see my 120 spices, that's my palette. That is how I paint. I paint with flavors and I paint to bring smiles to people's faces.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel, and my wife thinks I'm crazy because I try all kinds of different rubs, and I try to I make my own as well. But I always like to try other people's concoctions and blends to see how they are, and then I compare them to what I do. There's some that I just I've tried that I just like. I can't believe people buy this, but and it's all personal taste as well. But I'm the same way. I like to experiment and try new things, and I'll try other people's rubs as well, just to kind of see, what other people
Mhm.
are doing as well.
Yeah, I
So
always teach
that's
people
great.
who want to start a rub business that I always offer them this advice that really the fact of the matter is at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you think about your seasonings. You still have to cook it. You have to take it to a contest, and then you have to determine, have 24 strangers eat your food, beat 100 teams to first place. Then you know that what you have is something tangible that you can give to someone else to replicate the same result. So I always tell people, if you want to start a rub seasoning, go ahead and blend it the best you can, cook it, take it to a contest, and see how well it does. If it reaches first place, then you have a winner, because there are many thousands of seasonings out there. Everybody claims theirs to be good, but at the end of the day, right, I would say that the street credibility of your seasoning is important. And how well it does in a double blind contest, I think is the gold standard that determines whether it's good or it's bad.
Exactly. Yeah, when you got people that don't know you and don't care about you are tasting it, and those are the ones that are going to tell you the truth about it, right?
Yeah, the idea is that the rub in the raw form means nothing. So many rubs may taste good raw, but after cooked for 14 hours, it tastes different. So what I am telling you is that when I cook and I blend and engineer my formulas for my rub, I don't just taste it raw. I actually cook the brisket 6 times and tweak the recipe 6 times. So each brisket takes 14 hours to cook. So I've invested, right, 100 hours sometimes to just tune one aspect of the spice. So I'm like OCD. When you go to bed at night, right, and you dream about your vacation, I go to bed and dream about the 27 shades of color on my chicken. That's how OCD I am.
That's funny. I've watched some of your, chicken trimming videos and stuff like that, and you're very meticulous, and you're a good teacher. But that's one of the things I don't see myself ever being able to go to a barbecue competition, and because I don't have the patience for some of the details it takes. Like I watched you do the chicken thigh trimming, and just the amount of detail you go into with the skin, scraping the fat off, trimming the skin perfect and putting it back on. I mean, I don't think I could do that, but I can see where where it's one of the better things. So it's
Yes, absolutely. And I always tell people that's what it takes to win first place USA, to beat 7,000 professional teams to first place. Now, what I try to do on my channel is I take competition techniques and I adapt it so that you can create the same thing at home without so much difficulty. That's why it took me like 9 chicken videos to show you all the tricks I have, because I show you the black belts. I also show you the white belts. So I'm basically teaching you, hey, you don't have to do all this crazy shit stuff. You just do it this way, and you will get 90% of the results. The other 10%, fa la la la, leave it to people who are competing. You can get 90% of a competition chicken by just following some of these basic steps. So I introduced these fundamental series on my channel, like 10 brisket fundamentals, 7 hot and fast fundamentals, because I want to kind of pass on this knowledge to people so that you do not have to go to the crazy lengths that we do as competitors. You can get 90-80% of that mileage by just following some basic steps.
Yeah, and that's one of the another thing I love about your YouTube channel. It's not just about tradition and myths, and the people that you got to rub mustard on your pork butt to make the rub stick. That's not true. I know it's not true, but people will
No,
actually
but if you
think that you
believe
got
it,
to
it's
put
okay.
mustard.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not like you have to use mustard. That's the only thing that'll you use water. It'll make your rub stick to the pork butt just as well. So
Yeah, the internet has something called GOTs. So GOTs in my book, right? I've identified a species on the internet, just like we are known as Homo sapiens, right? We are Homo sapiens. We are upright human beings. There is a species on the internet called GOT. GOT stands for guardians of tradition. So people who wake up in the morning and who surf the internet all day long, who do not cook, but consider themselves the guardian of tradition because they watch 1,000 videos and they read 1,000 podcasts and blogs and they consider themselves the expert. So I have a rule. Any student whom I teach understands Harry's 3-to-1 rule. Harry's 3-to-1 rule is very simple. For every 3 hours of cooking barbecue, you are allowed and permitted to watch 1 hour of online videos. That's the rule. Because a lot of people who ask questions, and I get thousands of questions, right? I answer every single one of them. And I can tell you a lot of people who ask me questions, they don't cook. They are keyboard cooks. So I always admonish them to say, hey, get off your keyboard, go out and light your pit and cook some food. And for every 3 hours later, go back and serve for an hour. That's the ratio, I think, that will allow you to develop your skill sets. You cannot keep watching videos of Tiger Woods swinging his club. You got to go out to the range and swing 10,000 times in order to understand what he's trying to teach you. So when I try to teach, right, people argue with me over how much water to put into apple cider so they can spray their pork. I know that they're not really cooking. They're just GOTs.
that's true. I mean, but you find that in every cooking style method. I mean, I find it in the sous vide groups as well, where it's the same type of stuff where you know the people that don't actually do any cooking, they just sit there. They've read 5 other Facebook groups. They've looked at the blogs and podcasts, and they're just parroting what they've heard or seen or read. They don't really cook. They're not
And
really doing it.
they argue
So,
with you. They argue with you with passion. And sometimes, right, I
yeah,
hate to be kind of like rude, but a lot of these people are kind of really rude. Okay, people who on the internet may not know who Harry Sue is, and I'm okay with that. I don't need to have any kind of notoriety. I just like to cook and teach people what I do. And I always tell them, this is what I did. And it was good enough for first place USA. So, you may not like it. It's cool. Do it your way. I don't want to mess with your 30-year tradition and you've been a pit master for 30 years. Do what you're doing. But I'm just showing you what I do. You don't have to follow me. They condemn me to hell. Like saying, wow, you did that. That's blasphemy. It's like, what?
right, exactly. And that's my thing is if you want to cook it a different way, you're more than welcome to, but don't try to trash what I'm doing, especially if you've never cooked it the way I do. I mean, I get that a lot. Well, people would just go, "Oh no, you got to do it this way." It's like, have you ever tried it my way? Probably not. So don't tell me that I'm doing it wrong because it's the results that count and how I like it because it still boils down to
So
personal
now,
preference.
Darren,
So
whenever you have that, you can remember what I said and you can chalk it out as a GOT. That's another GOT out there.
GOT.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm going to use that. Well, Harry, I've kept you. We've been almost at an hour here, and we could probably talk for another couple hours, but I know you got a plane to catch, and I'm very appreciative and glad that you were able to make it on the podcast today. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we say goodbye?
I want to again emphasize the message that the rainbow of barbecue is a culture of what do you call inclusiveness, not exclusiveness. So I want to pass a reminder to all your listeners that really, when you cook barbecue and somebody comes up to you and tells you that they boil their ribs, resist the lizard brain that's telling you to say something unkind to the person. What you should really be saying is that, wow, you boil your ribs and you say that you have the best ribs in the world. You should ask that person, what do you do with the rib? Because if the person tells you that I'm spreading love with my boiled rib, you should just say, let me have some.
That's right. And it's not just, barbecue, it's cooking in general. Cooking in general is something that we as humans do that, we enjoy. We do it to provide for our families, to let, do things that they love. It's all about, bringing happiness to other people. So I really love that message. So.
Yeah. So and then shout out to all your listeners and to you, Darren. Anytime you want to chat, you can just grab me anywhere. I pretty much am on Skype and Microsoft Teams all day long in my day job. So I talk 10 hours for a living. So if you just want to chat about, life wisdom, barbecue wisdom, cooking wisdom, more than happy to join your podcast. And thank you so much for inviting me on to your podcast.
Well, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to have a chance to meet you if you're going to be at the HPB show next year in New Orleans, because I'm hoping that we can meet, with Troy and Justin and maybe some of the other guys that you guys got to meet up in Dallas this year, which looked like it was a great time. And Greg, I did get a chance to meet Greg a couple weeks ago out in California. I was out in San Diego for work, and I got to have dinner with Greg Mervich. So that was great. Didn't have time to get up to Los Angeles or anything, but hopefully we can meet sometime here soon. It was really great having you, and I appreciate it. And thanks again for coming on. Harry, thanks again.
All right, Darren, appreciate it. Catch you next time.
Wow, that was a great episode. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Harry, for being here. Thanks, everybody, for following the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, on our page and our group. Follow us on YouTube, on the Fire and Water Cooking channel, Twitter, Instagram, all that. I also put a link to Harry Sue's YouTube channel down below in the description. Make sure you check out Harry's wealth of knowledge on his YouTube channel as well. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you on the next episode.